Welcome to our second presentation of the day, which was originally going to be John Brush. We had a slight issue this morning and he is no longer able to attend. Instead, we will be having a discussion with Len Augsburger about the Eliasberg, Gardner, and Hansen collections. So you all will be able to kind of contribute. It'll be more of a discussion format than a presentation compared to most of our different presenters. So let's see how this goes. Len, you can take it away.
All right. Well, sorry we couldn't get John Brush on this morning. I was really looking forward to hearing about the Hansen collection. We've sort of heard rumblings about this for several years, and of course now the Hansen set is widely known and posted on the PCGS set registry, so people are much more aware of it. But certainly in the beginning, there wasn't necessarily a lot of public information on it. So I was really looking forward to hearing John talk about the formation of the collection and what's going on and how it's growing. Unfortunately, he had a last minute issue, not able to attend, nothing serious, but we'll see if we can possibly get this one rescheduled. So what I'd like to do instead is talk about some of these very large collections that people have thought about in terms of completing the entire US set. And obviously the gold standard here is Louis Eliasberg, who really captured a lot of the public mindset around this idea of collecting the US series. Without Eliasberg, this idea might not be as popular and commonly known as it is today. But in any case, Eliasberg was a Baltimore banker, very active in the 1930s and 1940s. One of the things that got him started was the gold recall in 1933. Essentially, we went off the gold standard to a paper money standard in 1933. President Roosevelt called in all the gold. Collectors were still allowed to keep gold coins. But other than that, the public was supposed to turn in all their common gold coins, which by and large, now many people turn in gold, but obviously a lot of the US gold coins have survived. In any case, Eliasberg started collecting gold coins and all coins of the US series. And as he got closer to his set completion in the 1950s, there were definitely people that knew what he was attempting to do and people who tried to speculate and capitalize on that fact. Eliasberg wasn't really happy about that, but auctions are public. People can buy whatever they want and you have to compete. So by the time he got to the end of the collection, the last coin was the 73cc No Arrows dime, came up at auction. He's outbid for it by a dealer who clearly knew Eliasberg needed that coin and would be willing to pay dearly for it. Eliasberg was not pleased at all, but in the end, he decided that he could give the dealer a 10% margin on the coin, and the 73cc No Arrows dime was the last coin in the set, and Eliasberg now had a complete collection. This was in the 1950s. At the time, Eliasberg had a full-page spread in Life magazine, which at the time was just about the most popular US periodical. And this was actually the first time that a lot of these coins were published in color. So, you know, the public had never really seen this before. But anyway, getting publicity in Life magazine at the time was about the best way to attract public attention to what he had done. So he now had a complete set He had custom holders built for it. And the set was ultimately exhibited at the Mint in around the time of the bicentennial. This was facilitated by the Stacks. So again, drawing much more public attention to the fact that, you know, this was the only and first ever complete US coin collection. Now, of course, there's always exceptions. There was a 3-cent nickel in the collection that wasn't a business strike. It was actually a pattern. The 1870s half dime had not been discovered yet. That came to light in the late 70s, so he didn't have that coin. So there's always wags out there and people who are ultra picky, but regardless of these minor exceptions, it was at that time a complete US set. So a lot of publicity around that, and really popularized the idea that this could be done, and you know, grew. You know, I think it was good for the coin hobby that this publicity got out there, and people thought in terms of completion. So later on, eventually Eliasberg passed away. The collection was dispersed in 2 large chunks. The gold coins were sold by Bowers and Ruddy in 1982, and then the silver coins and copper coins sold in 1996 and 1997 by Bowers and Moreno. For anyone joining late, John Brush unfortunately was not able to be here today. Last minute conflict. We're hoping we can get him rescheduled, and we'll put an announcement on the NNP Symposium webpage, homepage, if we're able to do that. Now, from Eliasberg, we move on to Gene Gardner. Gardner first collected as a kid. He eventually sold his first collection in the early 1960s through Stacks. He was in his 20s at the time. His father, who had started the DeWalt tool brand, was very skeptical of the money that Gene was putting into the hobby at that time. But after the 62 sale, I believe it was, his father saw that Gene actually did pretty well with those coins. And there was certainly no issue after that. But in any case, at that point in time, Gene shifted his focus to his family and his career, and as many people do at that point in their lives, and got back to it much later. And there's a chain between Eliasberg and Gardner. Gardner just sort of chanced upon the Eliasberg sale in 96. Bought a few things and just got hooked. And Gardner was not necessarily thinking in terms of an entire US coin collection, but certainly subsets of it, the silver coins, for example, and formed really important sets of bust and seated coinage, virtually complete for those areas, and was really driven more by quality than completion. So you look through his sets, you know, you have a consistent and extensive run of finest knowns for a lot of these issues. And Gene was just a really nice guy. He would come to shows and, you know, show a few coins off, and just a very personable guy. And I enjoyed the time I had with him. And, you know, he just liked coins. You know, this is not necessarily some big ego thing, or, you know, I have to have the best one of everything, even though he did. But he just really appreciated the coins. So we move on to Hansen, and this again, I think it's great for the coin collecting world that somebody is trying to do this. It generates a lot of good publicity for the hobby. And, you know, it's not that these coins are going to disappear forever. You know, we've seen Eliasberg, Newman, coins tend not to sit in one place for a really, really long time. They eventually tend to come out. So, and, you know, for the history of collecting through, you know, back to the 19th century, it's just a constant stream of collection formation and dispersal. Sometimes it may take 50 or 100 years, but, you know, eventually it comes back and things recirculate. But in any case, Hansen's putting together what may be at some point in time a complete US set. He's down to, I believe, the last 20 or so coins, of which 10 are like virtually non-collectible. The people who own those 10 very much understand what's going on here. They understand the dynamic. So moving those coins from their current owners to Hansen is something that won't necessarily be a very simple process if it happens at all. And it very well may not for some of these coins with one or two known, or just one or two known in public hands. And there are a number of these. And the other dynamic here is that, you know, this is all public. Hansen's got all his coins in the set registry, so people know what's missing, what's needed. And if you happen to own one of those coins, you would be following all of that very carefully and thinking about, you know, do I want to keep this coin? If I don't keep it, how much am I going to sell it for? So a lot of intrigue and interesting things going around these last coins in the set. But in any case, you know, I applaud Hansen for making this as public as he has, and it's fascinating to watch. So I think a lot of us are enjoying this. There's a extensive thread on the PCGS US Coin Forum, authored by Curran, which I highly recommend. Curran's been going through various aspects of the Hansen set and just sort of evaluating the various coins and how they stack up against other important examples of those same coins. So that's been a lot of fun to watch, and it'll be interesting to see how that develops over the next couple of years here with a few remaining coins. I want to open this up for discussion. If anyone wants to comment on the Hansen set or its formation or where they see it going, let's open it up for any questions or observations or just comments.
So if you would like to comment, go ahead and raise your hand, and I will allow you to speak kind of one at a time. You will not have video turned on, but you will be able to speak so the rest of us can hear you. So just click the little raise hand button at the bottom of your screen that we told you we weren't using for this. We're going to use it for this time. Okay, we've got a couple hands up. So we're going to have John, I'm going to mispronounce your last name, Wachter? I don't know. Okay, on the very bottom left-hand corner of your screen, John, you should see a little microphone. You found it.
Got it. Yeah, you were very close. Wachter's the actual pronunciation. But Leonard, my question, my reading on Eliasberg, for example, is he got a big boost in completion. I guess he bought, was it the Clap collection or whatever? He bought a big chunk at once. Now, did Hansen, do we know, did he kind of do the same thing? Was he out buying big collections to fill holes, or was he much more methodical? Thanks.
Yeah, I don't think he has bought anything as large as Clap, but he definitely has bought sets. I believe the seeded dollars came from the legend Bruce Moreland set, and when you're doing something on this scale, the entire US set is something like 6,000 coins. You cannot buy them one by one. Nobody has enough time. So it's a lot easier if you can buy sets. So yeah, nothing as large as Clap, which was just absolutely huge for Eliasberg. And you know, everybody does this. You know, you look at John Ford. He got you know, the Massachusetts silver from James Clark, and anytime you have really large collections, that's how it has to go. Eric Newman bought a lot of his colonial paper money in one shot from I believe it was a Florida collector. Yeah, definitely acquiring other collections is the way to go if you're going to get involved in this.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to mute you again, John. And, oh, there it is. Okay, and now we have Martin. Oh, there we go. Okay, Martin, in the bottom left-hand corner, you should have a little microphone that you can click to unmute yourself. If you run into any problems with that, just send something in the Q&A and I will help you find that.
There we go.
There we are.
I'd like to look to the future. It takes incomprehensible amounts of money for, you know, us typical collectors. I know there was a collection. Is it the Trajan collection or something that's being formed that's secret, but certainly not complete? What do you see as the future for these types of mega collections, availability, money required, etc.?
Well, I guess one thing that's at play here is that with the advent of the internet, it's a lot easier to form these collections logistically. There's just so much, the velocity of the market is so much faster than it was 50 or 75 years ago. So if an enterprising billionaire wants to come along and form a really huge and extensive and significant collection, that's much easier today than it was a couple generations ago. And with the growing wealth disparity that we see, you know, especially in the United States and other places, it's possibly more likely we'll see more of these kind of collections. At least all the environment needed to create them is in place. So I would not be surprised to see a few more. I know with the Trajan collection, I think parts of that have been exhibited. There was an exhibit at Long Beach of $10 gold pieces. So even though they may not be listed on the set registry or whatever, you know, so some parts of it have been exhibited. So those things are out there.
Okay, did you have any other questions, Martin?
Let's see, let me on.
That's it?
Following up on that, you know, what creates the numismatic fever? You know, you say a billionaire, but how do you line up the stars, so to speak, to go after something like this? And also, on a completely other tangent, I know that Max Mill had to be a major source of material back then. How would word get out that, you know, in the collecting community, dealer community, that so-and-so was building a collection, and suddenly all eyes of the knowledgeable dealers focus on him? Thank you.
So the way it gets started is, I think people are either born collectors or not born collectors. There's always a lot of talk in the hobby about how do we attract more people or how do we get more kids interested. And I think a lot of it is just genetic. So, you know, a very typical path is somebody will collect when they're a kid, and then they'll go to college, get married, start a family, start a career, and then come back to it. That's a very typical arc. You know, we saw that with Gene Gardner. And then in terms of getting the word out, all it takes is a few large purchases. For example, if you buy coins over the internet through a heritage auction, and you spend, you know, some significant amount of money, you know, in the six figures or seven figures, one of the principals at Heritage will give you a phone call. That's just going to happen, and you know, that's true for any auction house. So, you know, once they find out, a dealer finds out what you're interested in, and they know that you're a ready buyer, coins will just automatically start finding their way to you, and you'll pretty much get first shot at anything really interesting that's happening out there. So dealers, they have an affinity for clients who are ready to spend money. It's just very natural. So you just start spending, and you know, everything will take care of itself in terms of coins finding you.
Okay, do you have any other questions, Martin?
No, thank you.
No?
Thanks,
Okay.
Martin.
Okay, then next up we have Richard. Oh, there it is.
Hi, Len. I have a question. Would they use the Red Book as a guide for the collection? And would you have to have everything in the Red Book to say you're complete?
Yeah, there are as many collectors as there are set definitions. But yeah, the Red Book is very influential. If a variety coin, for example, is listed in the Red Book, it just becomes more desirable. So Red Book, I would say, you know, that's a gold standard, and the other ones would be the PCGS and NGC set registries. People give a lot of weight to those definitions. So those are probably the three most prominent set definitions today. I think when people think of, you know, complete US set, probably they think of Red Book first. But you know, that's just really a question of where the public mind share is at. You know, when Eliasberg was putting his set together, the Red Book, you know, when he first started, the Red Book didn't even exist. He's collecting in the 30s and 40s. Red Book starts in 46. And then by the early 50s, he's done. So, you know, at that point, you know, the complete US set was probably just whatever Louis Eliasberg said it was.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions, Richard?
No.
Okay. Then, let's see, next up we have Scott. Okay, so in the lower you found the unmute.
Yeah, just one quick question. Would this set include commemoratives? And if so, classics and or moderns?
Yeah, the commemoratives are listed in the Red Book, and I think people probably would include those when thinking of a complete US set. But again, it's a personal choice at the end of the day.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. And then we do have a question that came into the Q&A. How long has Hansen officially been pursuing this set, and what seems like a likely time frame for the set's completion?
I probably first heard about Hansen 7 or 8 years ago. And then I don't know how long he's been listed on the PCGS set registry. And in terms of completion, I'm not sure he's ever going to get there. As he gets down to these last 10 or 20 coins, things are going to move much more slowly. And, you know, my understanding is that, you know, if he thinks he's being held up for a specific coin, he's just not going to play. So that may prevent certain coins from getting into the collection. But, you know, he seems very active, very interested, and, you know, it seems by all indications he's going to keep going at this for a while.
Okay, we don't have any more hands up. Oh, yes, we do. Okay, now we have Kenneth.
Len, how you doing?
Hey, Ken.
Thanks for picking this up. It just shows you versatility of knowledge. Len, I feel almost kind of bad asking this, but I'm just so curious. I mean, I could look this up. It would take a little time. I hate to give you like a trivia question, but could you maybe say some of the coins that are missing? I certainly have some ideas. And it's probably hard to know, you know, for anybody what a lot of them are, but do you have maybe some solid leads on what they are?
Sure. And if you reference the PCGS US Coin Forum thread, there's periodically a listing of these, but just a couple that come to mind. The 1870s half dime, which is unique, discovered around 1980, is not in the Hansen collection. 73 CC no arrows dime, another unique coin, is not in the collection. And then there are a couple other, you know, well-known coins. And I'm not sure about these two, but, you know, the 1913 nickel, $1804, I'm not sure if he has those either. But you know, a couple of these very commonly known ultra rare coins are not in the collection either. So, but yeah, you know, a lot of these, you know, either unique in public hands or just one or two known. So those will be tough, and they will come slowly, if at all.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm gonna look up the 1822 $5 also.
Yeah, 1822 half eagle. It's another big one, and everyone knows there's you know, one still in the Poe collection. So, but I think the other ones are in the National Numismatic Collection. So again, you know, it's a coin, just one known, the 1870s $3 gold in the Bass collection, on display currently on loan to the American Numismatic Association. It's another unique coin, not in the Hansen collection. So yeah, when there's only one known, it gets very difficult.
Thanks, Len.
Okay, going to turn. Thank you, Kenneth. And then we had a question come into the Q&A. What seems to be some of the distinguishing factors between major collectors who choose to remain anonymous, like the owner of the Tyrant collection, and collectors like Hansen who have their name associated with their collection?
It's, you know, it's just a personal choice, and some people really go to extremes with this. So the St. Louis half-cent collector, Bernard Edison, put together the only complete proof and mint-state set of half-cents. He went by the name Tettenhorst, which was the name of his administrative assistant. He actually had, I don't know how he did this, but he had a driver's license made up with the name Tettenhorst. So, and when you saw him at a show, you were supposed to call him Tet. You never called him his real name. And it was just kind of understood that's how the way it was going to be, that he was going to be ultra private about this and, you know, never use his real name. And then, you know, I think some of it too is a lot of collectors don't want, you know, people like me bugging them and asking them about their collection all the time. So they just decide to stay anonymous. And then the other dynamic is that anonymity can be helpful if, you know, you don't want everyone knowing what you have and what you need. So that's a consideration for some collectors as well. But in the end, you know, it's a personal choice. But you know, those I think are some of the factors at play there.
Okay, we have a couple more hands up. I don't know this person's name. It just shows up as a number. So someone can talk now. On the lower left, you found it.
Okay. Hi, Leon. This is Joel. Hi,
Hey, Joel.
I was
Nice to meet you.
Good to meet you. We may have run across each other a time or two. I was called away for just a second, so you may have already addressed this, but if so, I apologize. How do we handle coins that are literally illegal to own? The 33 double eagle coming immediately to mind, but you know, also perhaps the 64 piece dollar. What do we get an asterisk there because they're illegal to own? In the case of the 33 double eagle, of course, there's one that's legal to own.
Yeah, these sorts of coins are really frustrating because you just never feel like you have closure from Treasury on whether these things are legal or not. I mean, you have all these pattern coins that were, you know, traded by the mint in the 19th century that, you know, technically are probably illegal, but, you know, for whatever reason, Treasury Department's never done anything about it. 1913 nickels. Come on, if any coin should be illegal, it should be something like that. And it's a question more of, you know, what Treasury does than what they say. And you know, for 1913 nickel, there's just a tradition that they're not going to go after them for whatever reason. If you have a 64 piece dollar, you're going to go put it in a bank box in Switzerland. Nobody's going to come out and, you know, admit they have something like that publicly. Although there was a, you know, 74 aluminum cent that was turned back into Treasury recently. It would have been hard for me to do that if I owned it, but that happened in that case. You know, I think, you know, in terms of completion, we sort of get back to, okay, what's the, you know, the gold standard for defining a set? And, you know, if you look in a red book, you won't see a 64 piece dollar listed there.
Right.
So I'm not even sure the 74 aluminum cents are in there. You know, again, that's a personal decision on the part of every collector. But I think in terms of set definition, you sort of look to, okay, what's the consensus for a complete set? And generally those coins are not in it.
Right. Thank you.
And if anyone watching would like to learn more about illegal to own coins, Armin Vartian is giving a talk at 11 about specifically illegal to own coins. So tune into that one. And we did have one comment come into the Q&A saying that the 1913 Liberty Head nickel isn't a real coin, ditto for the 1804 dollars. So that was kind of on par with that topic. Another question that came into the Q&A: when you are used to bidding in the popular auctions for missing pieces but aren't able to find any new ones, does Hansen pursue duplicate coins for his collection?
John Brush, David Lawrence have been selling off Hansen duplicates. You know, if you buy a lot of coins at one time, you know, from somebody's collection or whatever, you know, you're just naturally going to end up with some duplicates. My sense is that Hansen hasn't gone after duplicates as much as Gardner did. Gardner was more than happy to own 2 or 3 of a very rare coin. That was great. Based on what I've seen coming out that John Brush has been selling with respect to duplicates, I don't think Hansen's driven that way as much.
Okay, let's see. We have another hand up on the side. It looks like John Wachter is back. Okay, you're back on, John.
Yeah, I heard you talking about the set registry for Hansen. and I will plead ignorance, and I have not gone and looked at that, but I'm curious, is like a lot of the common stuff, you know, in filling the set, say Roosevelt dimes or Lincoln cents from 1950. Is all of that stuff he has, has it all been certified, or is he keeping a lot of the common stuff, you know, raw in a Dansko or something like that? Thank you.
Yeah, no, those modern 20th century sets, they're certified as well. You know, he wants them in as high a grade as he can get them. And, you know, if you look at his Roosevelt dimes, there are going to be a lot of 68s and 69s in there. And yeah, he's just as interested in having complete sets of those as the 19th century coins.
Yeah, I did kind of a follow-up. That's the interest, but in fact, I guess my question is about the certification. He wants to have everything certified and put on the list. Is that?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, I don't see any more hands up or questions in the Q&A, so go ahead and raise your hand or send something, and there's a question. Cool. Okay, from the Q&A, what are your thoughts on foreign coins minted by the U.S. mints? Many have U.S. mint marks, and a few of the Ecuadorian coins even have the Philadelphia mint fully spelled out. Most of these coins are easily obtained, but others are quite rare.
Yeah, that's kind of a specialty in itself. And I know there's at least one book written about foreign coins struck by the U.S. Mint, and that really would make a great collection just on its own. That might be due for another book. If someone wanted to put that collection together and document it that way, that would be a really neat collection, make a great exhibit somewhere. But yeah, that's another take on a complete US set. But you know, generally you won't find a complete list of those coins in the Red Book or any other source for that matter. But yeah, that'd be an interesting collection to pursue. I know there was at least one book on the subject, and the U.S. Mint reports typically have contain information on foreign coins struck by the U.S. Mint in that year. So yeah, it's an interesting area of inquiry.
Okay, we don't have any more. There is a question. I spoke too soon. From the Q&A, do you think this sort of task will still be attractive in 100 years if the Mint keeps doing large series like the State Quarters and America the Beautiful Quarters?
Yeah, future of coin collecting. It's hard to look out that far in advance. You know, I guess what I would say is I think collecting is genetic, so I think there's always going to be collectors. And in terms of what the Mint is producing now, there is so much of it that I can't imagine that making a complete collection in 100 years would necessarily be that much more difficult than it is today. You know, the rarest thing the U.S. Mint is putting out are, you know, some of these like first spouse gold coins. You might have mintage of a couple thousand, but even that's just a huge number by traditional standards. So you're not generating any of these rarities the way they were in the 18th and 19th centuries. So someone wants to try this on 100 years. I don't think it would be that much harder than it is today.
Okay, has Hansen published any articles on some of his rare coins?
I believe there's been, I don't think by Hansen, but I think by a few other people, there may have been something in the PCGS Rare Coin Market Reports, or possibly the CAC Market Report published by Coin Dealer Newsletter. But I don't think Hansen's put anything out himself, but there was one very interesting article. It was on PCGS US Coin Forum. Curran, who has been blogging on this collection in that forum, essentially, was invited to actually go see it. And he wrote up a very extensive report with pictures of, you know, the bank vault and all the PCGS boxes. And it was a great piece. And that's published on PCGS US Coin Forum.
I know one of the recent CPGs as well had an article about acquiring one of the coins for Hansen's collection. It was either the most recent one or the one before that. Okay, and we have a hand up, which is Kenneth. Okay. Hello,
Hey,
Kenneth.
you know, just wondering if you have any insight into this. You know, being a billionaire, you know, it's so easy for, you know, Mr. Hansen to acquire coins like this. Do you have any feeling or insight into maybe his expertise as compared to Gene Gardner or an Eliasberg? Is there any thought about that out there, comparison?
Yeah, I haven't met Hansen, and you know, obviously he's got great interest. I'm not really privy to how expert he is on any particular series. The other point I would make too is that you know, it's not necessarily having a checkbook. Obviously, that's crucial, but there's a question of opportunity here for a lot of these coins. You know, if some collector holds an ultra rare coin that they just love, and they don't really care about money because they have $1 billion too, then that coin's not going to come on the market. So yeah, obviously Hansen has, you know, great interest and exceptional interest in the coins in terms of, you know, how much expertise he has on, you know, 19th century die varieties or something like that. I really can't speak to.
Thanks.
Okay. And then from the Q&A, does Hansen attend auctions in person to personally check the coins, or is he satisfied with the auction pictures in the catalog?
Yeah, I don't know that either, and that's something that John Brush could have spoken a lot to, is, you know, the dynamic between himself as the agent and Mr. Hansen. Yeah, I'm curious how that works too. I don't know if John just has a blank checkbook or how that works, or if they go back and forth on each coin. But hopefully John will be able to report on that in the future.
Yes, John Brush has said that he would like to, at the very least, like record what would have been his presentation, so we'll be able to put it up on the new NNP at a later date. So keep an eye out for that, and we'll have those announced on the website when they do go up.
Excellent.
So also from the Q&A, since many coins are ultra rarities or have single-digit population numbers, could a case be made for the mint to restrike some of these coins specifically for collectors with low numbers and call them copies, fillers, or whatever? Seems to me like some of the impossible coins might turn collectors off from specific series, and an effort to create fillers would make asterisk type completion possible and potentially grow the hobby.
Yeah, I think from the mint perspective, this would be a tough program. A lot of these coins, you know, they could strike some of these, but they wouldn't necessarily sell enough of them to really justify the effort of cutting new dies and rolling out a marketing program around the whole thing. There are a lot of private mints, third-party mints that create these coins and do put copy on them. A lot of them, you know, and then there's obviously a lot of fakes too, especially coming out of Asia right now that aren't necessarily marked, so people can collect those as well. But yeah, I don't see the mint doing it. I think it's probably too small potatoes for them. So yeah.
Okay, now we have a hand up from Martin. Okay, you can now unmute yourself, Martin.
You talked about the genetics of collecting. You know, I'm old enough to where I was collecting Lincoln cents and change, etc. would you speak about the concern that seems to be continued to be raised about the future of collecting, that us old guys don't see any youngsters at coin shows, etc. And I realize that it's a global market now, which is encouraging to me. Thank you.
Yeah. So you know, a lot of us got our start pulling Lincoln cents out of circulation. You know, this generation, hopefully they'll look back and say, oh yeah, I got my start pulling, you know, States quarters out of circulation and putting them in an album. If you go back 100 years and look at the coin collector population, it's a lot of old folks. So it was that way a century ago, and you know, it's a little bit like that today too. So that part of it actually hasn't changed, believe it or not. I think what a lot of us in, you know, the baby boomer era, you know, tend more to think of is, you know, oh, there was all this activity in the 1960s, and it was huge. You know, there was a coin shop on every corner and tons of publications that don't exist today. And clearly something's changed since then. And it has. We don't have, you know, silver coins widely circulating that people can pick out and accumulate. So we don't have that going for us. But, you know, historically, this hobby has had an above age demographic, and that's actually pretty constant. So I wouldn't worry about it just from that point of view. I'd sort of worry more about it from the perspective of some trends. People think that, you know, the millennials and Gen Z tend to be more experience driven than materially driven. So if that's true, you'll probably see a less percentage of collectors in that generation. But I think there will still be collectors. I don't think that's going away. So there may be some, you know, decreased interest, but I think there's a long-term history of people, you know, being coin collectors for, you know, centuries at least. That is sort of this constant basis for widespread collecting. So I think that is safe. I definitely could see some decrease based on generational trends, but I think long term the outlook is good.
Okay. Then did you have anything else, Barton?
No, thank you.
Okay. Yep. So we have another question in the Q&A. Do you know what each of these collectors' favorite series were?
I know Gene Gardner, his favorite series was the seated quarters. And I was a seated quarter person myself, so we had some affinity that way. Eric Newman, maybe the Fugio cents or the Continental dollars, definitely one of the colonial series. So yeah, it's you know, it's just a personal thing for each collector.
Okay. Does Hansen have any favorites that you know of?
Yeah, not that I'm aware of. It'd be a great question for John Brush.
They do, I know on the DLRC website, they have a whole page about the Hansen collection where it highlights some of his most impressive coins, not necessarily his favorites, but there are some of the more noteworthy ones. So you can always look at that to see what some of those are.
Yeah, and I'm sure he must have some favorites, so that'd be interesting to hear.
Yeah. Okay, there is one question. I personally don't know the context for this. Any comments on the Saudi 4 pounds of gold for oil payments?
On a blank on that one.
Okay. We're going to need more context on that if you would like an answer.
I know there were some Saudi Arabia related gold coins. Just a researcher told me this week he was working on a project on, so I know there's some scholarship in that area, but I'm not familiar with the specific issue.
Okay, well, looks like we don't have any more hands up or anything in the Q&A, so we'll give you all just a couple more minutes to send in anything or raise your hands if you do have a question, but we should be wrapping up here pretty soon anyway. So if we don't have any more questions, then I think that'll that'll wrap us up for this one. So the next hour we have Robert Rodriguez speaking on the Morris so-called Silver Center scent. So that one will be opening just a couple minutes after we close this one out. So you are all welcome to go join in that one. And I'm not seeing any new questions or hands go up. So Len, if you have anything else you would like to close with, go ahead. Oh wait, I spoke too soon. There's a new book on the Saudi discs being written by Roger Burdett.
Yeah, that's the book I had in mind. I wasn't sure if it was publicly announced yet or not, but thanks for sharing that.
Okay, then if you have anything else you would like to close with, go ahead. Otherwise, we will wrap it up.
Yeah, so sorry we couldn't get John Brush. If you joined late, there was a last minute issue. He could not be on with us, but we hope to get him back, and that'll be announced on the NNP Symposium page if we can do that. And definitely looking forward to hearing what he has to say about the Hansen collection. It's something that's attracted a lot of interest in the last few years here.
Yes, and we will, regardless, we will be recording his presentation and having it up on the NNP. Yes, so just keep an eye out for that information. Okay, well, thank you all for joining us. Hope to see some of you all at the rest of the presentations today, and have a good day.